Don't leave that comment. I see you. Trust me, this video is not what you're expecting it to be. I know, we have the word anti-Lovecraftian in the packaging, but this is not actually an anti-Lovecraftian video. It's more in the sense of anti-hero? Let me explain. If you've been watching our videos for the last few years, you'll know that I have a certain affinity for cosmic horror, let's say. I think we did like 4 videos on cosmic horror in the last year alone. I found my way to a lot of really interesting titles in the genre. The King in Yellow, Uzumaki, Annihilation in the Hills, the Cities. I've even discovered some really amazing indie titles like Look Outside and I Fell in Love with the Majesty of Colors. But you know who I haven't mentioned in a long time? A name that is very conspicuously not in the room. Yeah, I noticed that too. It's interesting because it's not like I've been avoiding him or his work. Don't get me wrong, I do have all the usual objections. It is legitimately hard to get through a lot of his stuff without wincing at all the overt racism and xenophobia and the deep-seated fear of anybody who was, in his view, even a little different. In fact, Lovecraft's bigotry is so infamous at this point, I'd say that memes have just about eclipsed all the other discussion.
Italian herbs? No, thank you.
Now, the reason Lovecraft hasn't come up for me often personally is, honestly, I just think the rest of cosmic horror has become so much more interesting by comparison. There's this, I don't know, a genre, a movement, something happening. The very people Lovecraft would have despised, those othered and outcast in society, have been building on his ideas in ways that I think, frankly, elevate them. A huge amount of the cosmic horror I've consumed in recent years has this deeply introspective, personal, dare I say, even uplifting quality that I just never found in Lovecraft stuff. I haven't forgotten him or the things I loved about his works, but, I mean, this is something else. A change, an evolution, a new breed of cosmic horror that just takes my breath away. Let me show you. Before we get into the actual video, I've got to show you something. We've made what I think is one of my favorite pieces of art ever. Look at this. I won't say anything, just look at it. I am the cosmic horror. To anyone who's ever felt like an outsider, who's recognized how unconventional and untidy they are for the rest of the world. Everyone who's noticed these things about themselves and found power in them, this is for you. Illustrated by the amazing Salamander King, this poster shines with beautiful foil and hangs on your wall at a healthy 16 by 20 inches. You can get it right now at thetalefoundry.com/store. A big thanks to everyone who does. Not only are you supporting the show, but, you're also just encouraging really good art and a really good message. Speaking of which... A man lives alone in a ruined castle. He's always been alone. His life is one of total isolation. And then, one day, he escapes. For the very first time in his bleak life, he is free. Free to feel the moonlight on his skin, to finally experience the world. Soon, he comes across another castle, one where people actually live. After a lifetime of misery and loneliness, he rushes toward it, ecstatic to meet other living humans. As he enters the hall, so too does a monster. It's putrid, a hideous mockery of the human form. Everyone else flees in terror, but he can't look away. Morbidly transfixed by the sight before him, he reaches out to touch it, only to discover he's looking into a mirror. Suddenly, the lifetime of isolation makes sense. He is the monster. He just never knew it until now. This is the basic plot of the short story The Outsider by H.P. Lovecraft. If you know anything about Lovecraft, you'll see his fingerprints all over this. Lovecraft was a famous recluse, one who always, himself, felt like an outsider. Which is ironic, right? That this man, this self-proclaimed outsider, would have such a terror of other outsiders. I mean, his work is pretty much defined by it. Cosmic entities from outside time and space. Mysterious artifacts outside your understanding. Foreign cults chanting in languages outside your knowledge. Among all of Lovecraft's works, the horror at Red Hook is probably the one best known for, shall we say, conveying this terror. It's not set in some cursed town or haunted abode of eldritch monsters. It's an actual neighborhood in New York, a real place where real people live. Back in the 1920s, it was one of the poorest and most diverse areas in the city. In the story, Lovecraft calls it a maze of hybrid squalor, a babel of sound and filth, a tangle of material and spiritual putrescence where the blasphemies of 100 dialects assail the sky. And that's just in the first few pages. It gets worse from there. Remember when I said it's hard not to wince sometimes while reading his works? This one is just one big wince all the way through. It's a work that's earned its reputation.
People who move to New York always make the same mistake. They can't see the place. This is true of Manhattan, but even the outer boroughs too, be it Flushing Meadows in Queens or Red Hook in Brooklyn.
Victor LaValle is an author who grew up in the exact type of New York neighborhood that Lovecraft was describing here, the kind he finds so repulsive. He was a fan of Lovecraft's work, the eldritch horror, the atmosphere of weird fiction, but felt stung by all the blatant prejudice. So, in 2016, he wrote his own response to the horror at Red Hook, a novella called The Ballad of Black Tom. The titular character is a resident of Harlem in the 1920s. His entire life, he's berated, belittled, denied opportunities, treated as lesser. His own father is murdered by a private detective who faces no consequences at all. Eventually, he finds himself in the shadowy, occult world of the villain from Lovecraft's original Horror at Red Hook. Tom isn't terrified. The indifference of the universe? It doesn't faze him. When he learns about Cthulhu, he asks himself, what was indifference compared to malice? Indifference would be such a relief. Lovecraft stories are often fixated on the supposed danger of marginalized people, the, quote, half-castes and pariahs that apparently make up the cult of Cthulhu. The Ballad of Black Tom tells us the other side of the story. Tom doesn't align with the cult because he's inherently evil. He falls in with them because it's a better alternative to the racist society that surrounds him. This is something in the DNA of anti-Lovecraftian fiction. Rather than running in terror from the outsider, it sympathizes with them. Its villains are very different from Lovecraft's. Black and Jewish characters might face off against an eldritch entity, and its human followers in the Ku Klux Klan. The hero might be a homeless trans woman on a quest to save her girlfriend from a mysterious, well-connected cult. The protagonists could be a family from the south side of Chicago exploited by a power-hungry upper society organization. These stories all agree with Lovecraft on one thing. There are vast, insidious forces out there upheld by shadowy groups of people. But in anti-Lovecraftian fiction, those on the margins of society, the half-castes and pariahs, aren't the perpetrators of violence, they're the victims. The protagonists of these stories are often outsiders themselves. Not because they're destined to be the other, they aren't doomed by genetics like so many of Lovecraft's characters. They're only outsiders because there are those who benefit from keeping them on the outside. What you just heard was a short clip from Blossom, a song by the extreme metal band Pupil Slicer. According to the description on the site, it's a hard science fiction / cosmic horror concept album with central themes of abject terror, reincarnation, and a fascination of hell. Don't let me fool you, I might be a metalhead, but only in a very literal sense. I almost never listen to this kind of music. It's not usually my cup of tea, but this album, it is captivating. The lead vocalist, Kate Davies, pours their own personal experience into the lyrics. You can feel it in the intensity of their performance. Outside of this album, their songs tend to be grounded in the real-world horrors of transphobia and ableism, anxiety and self-loathing. Their work is characterized by fear, rage, torment. Those exact same emotions are expressed in Blossom, a cosmic horror story. The internal cosmos here is just as unfathomable as the external one. This is a scream to the universe, a furious rebuke of its indifference. Lovecraft stories are not what I would describe as personal. They're usually more concerned with what you are in the grand scheme of things rather than who you are. The protagonists don't get mad at the uncaring universe, they just go mad. They're annihilated by beings and experiences beyond their understanding, and that's pretty much where it ends. That dissolution is often the point. In anti-Lovecraftian fiction, by comparison, feelings are almost always the centerpiece of the story. Even though the universe deems them insignificant, we're supposed to care about what these characters are going through. And it's not just human characters that we're supposed to sympathize with. Sometimes, even the eldritch horrors are allowed to feel. Yoshiki's best friend Hikaru has been dead for months. Unbeknownst to anyone, an eldritch entity has made itself into a perfect copy of him. This seems like a typical horror story setup, except the new Hikaru doesn't have any malicious intentions. More than anything, his actions are driven by a zest for life. Watching movies, petting cats, eating ice cream, he's experiencing all of these things for the very first time. Yoshiki agrees to keep Hikaru secret, and the two of them become very close. Their relationship isn't explicitly described as romantic, but
気持ちいい。
これ気持ちいい。
頭なでなでされるんと一緒や。こんなとこ触られたことないし。
come on now. Before I give you the wrong idea, The Summer Hikaru Died isn't exactly a cozy anime. It's full of terrifying, heart-pounding moments. But it wasn't the monsters that scared me. The most frightening scenes were about Yoshiki and Hikaru's relationship. Moments where tender affection could lead to a painful betrayal or a miscommunication could unearth long-buried trauma. The show makes you feel for these characters. I wanted the two to be happy together, even though Hikaru wasn't the real Hikaru, even though he was an eldritch abomination. That's not a feeling I've ever really gotten while reading a Lovecraft story. His protagonists aren't really people, for the most part. More often, it seems like they're meant to be vessels, blank slates through which you, the audience, can experience the horror. For what it's worth, he is really good at delivering on that experience. My favorite thing about his stories is getting lost in the prose and the atmosphere of pure dread. Anti-Lovecraftian fiction has a very different set of goals. The characters and their relationships are much more fleshed out. They aren't there just so you can feel their fear. They have fully realized lives, backstories, interests. They're people that you can empathize with, even when they're monsters. It's a weird effect. You're forced to look at the uncaring vastness of the cosmos, and then get close to these characters anyway. Share in their lives, their feelings, their fears. These characters might not matter to the cosmos, but by the time you reach the last page or the credits roll, they matter to you. In the survival horror game Signalis, you play as Elster, an android. She's crash-landed on the planet of Lang, near a mining facility. It's clear that the place has seen better days. As Elster goes deeper into the mines, her surroundings become increasingly bizarre, surreal, and disgusting. Mutilated corpses crowd the rusting halls, masses of flesh pulsate on the ground. The map defies all logic and reason. In any of Lovecraft's stories, this should be long past the point where the nihilism kicks in. You'd expect the protagonist to go mad or take their own life or meet any other number of dreadful fates by this point. But for all of its inspiration from Lovecraft and other cosmic horror of his era, Signalis doesn't follow that formula. Despite everything, Elster refuses to give up. Each time the game asks if you want to jump into the abyss, every time you have the option to descend deeper into the horrors, the answer is yes. I want to tell you about the single darkest story I came across in my research for this video. I found it in another concept album, Monarch of Monsters, by the indie pop artist Violet Pony. It's a cosmic horror narrative set in the world of My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. Which sort of sounds like a joke. That was my assumption when I first heard about it. It even comes with a novella that's pretty self-aware of how strange the entire thing is. But beneath that surface layer of irony, its emotional core is very sincere. The music of Monarch of Monsters isn't as loud or abrasive as Blossom, but the story is just as intense. Existential/cosmic horror is probably the mildest thing listed on the album's content warning. The story is about a pony born with the soul of a wolf. She gives in to her instincts and embraces her bloodthirsty nature. The plot is heavy with murder, cannibalism, sexual violence, both done by her and to her. Most of the songs are expressions of her existential terror. She has no control over her life, over her violent urges. She feels that no matter what, she will always be a monster. There are obvious parallels to some of Lovecraft's stories, like the one where the man finds out his family is partially descended from a species of ape, or the one where a man finds out he's descended from fish people, or the one where the outer god has a half-human son, and you get the idea. Lovecraft's characters are frequently doomed by their lineage. Before they were even born, they were already condemned. The protagonist of Monarch of Monsters is also afflicted by a curse that she's had since birth. What she goes through is actually worse than anything I've read from Lovecraft. But her story ends in redemption. She finds someone who cares about her, and they fall in love. By the end, she recognizes that she isn't defined by her past. In Signalis, love is also what keeps Elster going. Through flashbacks, we learn more about her and her lover, Ariane. Both of them failed to fit into society. Both of them were outsiders, but managed to find comfort with each other, as short-lived as their happiness may have been. I wouldn't call Signalis an uplifting game, actually, but I also wouldn't describe it as nihilistic either. Elster and Ariane refuse to stop caring about each other. Their love is strong enough to carry them through countless fractured timelines, through shattering realities, through death itself. Signalis, and so much anti-Lovecraftian fiction like it, steps out onto the brink of cosmic insignificance, and somehow holds on to hope in the face of it. Many of these stories seem to say with almost a righteous fury, the cosmos doesn't have to care about us if we care about each other.
And Lovecraft, in his own life, felt incredibly powerless. He was from a family that once had wealth, but had lost it all. And the compliment that you can pay to his art is that he actually got that down on a page in a way that this 10 or 11-year-old black kid from Queens could also relate to.
It's hard to talk about this side of Lovecraft. It seems like when you try, there's always some inevitable backlash, a fear that his literary achievements are being erased, that his work and legacy will fade into obscurity. Here's the thing, though. Anti-Lovecraftian fiction, its authors and readers, aren't trying to erase Lovecraft. They aren't trying to cancel him. Of course, there is a strong reaction to the bigotry in his work, which, rightly so, but that's not what these stories are. People aren't making concept albums and writing books just to wear out the conversation of how bad they think Lovecraft is. There's something in his work that they love, something that resonates so deeply for them that they had to turn it into art. In the dedication for the Ballad of Black Tom, Victor Laval writes, "For H.P. Lovecraft, with all my conflicted feelings." So much of Lovecraft's work revolves around a specific revelation, that the universe just doesn't care about you, that you're nothing more than an ant on the pavement, a mote of dust on the wind. But is that really a novel concept for people who already live in a society or a world hostile to them? If every day you're othered, excluded, outcast, isn't this just a starting place? A validation of something you already felt your whole life? The way I see it, Lovecraft posed an incredibly compelling question. How do you respond to an uncaring cosmos? And these authors who spend every day self-defining, forcing a place for themselves in an inhospitable world, are doing what he never did. They're trying to answer it. You know, it's pretty amazing how centering characters in a cosmic horror story can shift the entire experience. When all that dread and helplessness is happening to someone you can empathize with, the stakes become incredibly emotional. Anti-Lovecraftian stories are still about eldritch horrors, the evil cults, and in a different universe, but fundamentally, they're about people. That, I think, is what really makes this subgenre unique. I'm always impressed by how these characters are written because they feel real to me. Not just believable, but empathetic, messy, human. And believe me, writing characters that way is a lot harder than you might think. These aren't just vessels for the audience, they feel like fully realized people. Character-focused stories can be intimidating to create, especially if you want your characters to be deeply complex and empathetic. So then, if you want to be able to write that way, how do you start? There's a writing class I really love called the Creative Writing Bootcamp. It's taught by best-selling author and writing instructor Mila Goldberg. What I like about this class is that Goldberg puts a lot of emphasis on empathy. She shows you how to create something called an empathy Venn diagram and how to use that not only to flesh out your characters, but to really understand them as people. I can't say enough about how useful a tool this is. Empathy is the difference between Cthulhu and Hikaru. It's arguably the central theme of the Ballad of Black Tom. If you're writing a character-focused story, the most important thing you can do is understand how your characters feel. You've probably heard about Skillshare about 100 times by now. Believe me, I get it. It's one of those companies that's kind of just turned into a sponsor buzzword, but I am here to tell you that it is actually great. There's a reason you've heard the name so much. This is a platform that changes lives. I've run across artists in the wild that just use it all the time. It puts the skills you've always wanted to learn within arm's reach by empowering other creatives to teach you what they know. It's less of an educational app and more of a community. And because there are so many creatives on Skillshare, it's got courses on pretty much everything. Coding, music, cooking, business, photography, graphic design. Seriously, if there's a skill you want to learn, chances are someone's made a Skillshare class on it. If that sounds interesting to you, and I think it should, here's what you can do. It'll cost you literally nothing if you go now because the first 500 people who use our link or scan the QR code on screen will get access to the Creative Writing Bootcamp and everything else Skillshare has to offer for free. 1 whole month of professional classes from other creators. If it's not for you, cancel and never pay a dime, but at least give it a shot. I really think you'll love this class. Again, click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen to get started for free. If you want to pick up a new hobby, reconnect with your creativity, maybe even recover a little from this age of brain rot we're all stuck inside of, I cannot recommend Skillshare enough. It's where humans go to learn from other humans. And me, of course, I go there too. I hope you'll give it a try.